Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me. So my name is Samantha, and in this video I'm just going to talk about protein, the use of protein in hair care. So in one of my recent videos I talked about things that I did in 2023 which helped me to retain length better than I've ever done in my entire life. And what I can say in addition to that is that these practices help me to achieve the healthiest hair, so they contribute to the overall health of my hair as well. And one of the things that I mentioned was that I was using protein on quite a regular basis, and I used protein in different ways, and I just wanted to now go deeper into the conversation about protein, because I think it's a really important part of hair care. It should be a really important part of everybody's hair care routine. So I've had a few questions sent to me through DMs on Instagram and also private messages on Facebook, and this is another reason why I wanted to talk about protein, so that if anybody out there has any questions about using protein or incorporating protein into the hair care routine, this is the information that you are going to need. So if you're interested in knowing about that, keep on watching, grab a snack, grab a drink, make yourself comfortable, and keep on watching the video. Okay, so let's get into the video. Protein. Hair is mainly made of protein. So the majority of what makes our hair strands is protein, and it is in the form of keratin. There are other things as well, like sulfur bonds, etc. But when looking at the structure of the hair, keratin is what makes up the majority of the hair strand, and therefore it makes sense that we need to be incorporating protein into our hair care routines as much as possible. By as much as possible, I'm not talking about too much. I'm just saying we need to make sure that one of our steps when it comes to our hair care routine includes protein. So I'm going to talk about how to incorporate protein in our hair care routine, so that you can make an informed choice of what your hair needs, because there are different things which you can do. So first and foremost, and I think the most important way of incorporating protein in your hair care routine is eating more protein. So we're talking about eating more eggs, meat, fish, lots of other things like beans, pulses, chickpeas, etc., which have a lot of protein in them. And if you are vegetarian or vegan, there's still lots of ways for you to get protein. Vegetarians can also get protein through dairy, like meat eaters. But vegans, you can also get protein from other things. A lot of the nut milks will have protein in them, and also things like tofu. So there are definitely sources of protein that you can incorporate into your diet to make sure that you're eating loads of protein, because what the protein is going to do is go and nourish the hair follicles, which is where the hair grows out of. So we need to be nourishing the hair follicles, and that will mean the hair that's going to grow out of the hair follicles is going to be healthy and strong and beautiful and shiny. So eat your protein. Now, the other way to incorporate protein in our hair care is using products, hair care products. Now, there are two different types of hair care products when we're talking about protein. They could be either products which have protein in them, or they actually mostly protein, and are therefore called protein treatments. So there's a big difference there, and I think you really need to be careful when you're looking at the products that you're going to be using in your hair. If you just want some product with a bit of protein in it, then you definitely don't want to be going for what's considered a protein treatment, because then it'll go overboard. Now, before I talk about the products, I just want to talk about why it's important to incorporate protein. So, apart from nourishing the hair follicles from the inside, you can actually nourish your hair follicles from the outside through the products that you use or ingredients that you use. So protein will help to strengthen your hair. That's the main thing about protein. It helps to strengthen your hair because you're going to replenish any protein that's been lost, or repair any protein bonds that have been broken, and therefore make your hair stronger. And that's why you find, when we're talking about protein in hair care, the conversations are usually around strengthening the hair. But protein does a lot more than just strengthen the hair. It also helps the hair to retain moisture better. So that improvement in moisture retention is going to help to also prevent breakage. So the prevention of hair breakage, when you're talking about protein, is not just through strengthening, it is also through moisturizing or moisture retention. So the way protein helps the hair to retain moisture is effectively, the small particles, amino acids, or hydrolyzed proteins, they will enter the hair shaft and attract water molecules into the hair shaft, and therefore help to keep your hair moisturized for longer. And the other thing, protein, what it actually does is by repairing any protein bonds that might have been broken or damaged, it actually helps your hair to have the elasticity so that you have the recoil. Even if your hair is bone straight, there is some degree of elasticity, and therefore, it's not just, you straighten a curl and bounces back. That's how you tell your hair has elasticity. Even if your hair is bone straight, you can actually, there is some tensile strength, there's also some elasticity, and your hair needs that. That is what's going to help it as well to be less prone to breakage. Like an elastic band. Let's talk about elastic bands. If you stretch it, it's not going to break away immediately because it can stretch, and that's what we want with the hair strands. So protein helps with elasticity. It also helps to construct the hair or reconstruct the hair if there've been some sort of issues, a bit of mild damage to the hair, and obviously reconstruct. We talk about construction of the hair, so the actual structure of the hair, and that is if your hair is curly. When you start to see your hair losing your coil pattern, that's definitely a sign that your hair is needing protein, because then you see the coils bounce back, and your coils popping again, and that's a sign that you've rebalanced your hair and your hair has adequate protein in it. How to tell if your hair needs protein? It's a tricky one, I think, for many people. And I've just learned this through feeling my hair, paying attention to my hair, and doing what's called listening to my hair. So hair that is very mushy and very limp, lifeless, dull, very frizzy, usually that's, there can be a sign that your hair needs protein, and especially if your hair is really mushy and limp and lifeless, I would say that's a definite sign that your hair needs some protein. Also, if you've lost your curl pattern, and I'm not talking about things like severe heat damage or relaxers, there's no way you're going to bring back those curls. It's not going to happen. No amount of protein treatment is going to help to bring those curls back. But if you have sort of minimal damage, then yes, using protein can actually help your coils to come back or your curls to come back. Protein also just brings your hair to life. It makes it look healthy, makes it look shiny, and just soft and bouncy. And that's if you've used an adequate amount of protein. So this is when you use the right amount of protein, you get all those benefits. And there is some evidence that incorporating protein into your hair, so by using products with protein or proteinaceous ingredients, it can actually promote your hair to grow faster. Now, I guess we have to take this with a little bit pinch of salt. And what I suspect is that, one, if your diet was lacking in protein, for example, or you just weren't using products with protein, your hair growth will stagnate. And then once you incorporate the protein, your hair starts to grow again, and then you start to see your hair getting longer, and it will look like it's growing faster. One, because it's growing, and also because you're retaining the length, so it'll seem like it's going faster. So I don't think, well, I guess I don't really know, but it's hard to believe that protein can actually give your hair some sort of turbo boost to grow a lot faster. Unlike things like, it's not like rosemary and fenugreek and things like that, things like that, which can help to actually boost hair growth rate. So healthy hair, shiny hair, curl or coil pattern or construction, moisture retention, all those things, protein is really good for that. Now, when it comes to the protein or products with protein, as I say, there are two categories. You can either have products with protein in them, or you have what are considered protein treatment, because they're mostly, it's like, let's say 99% protein or 90% protein. I don't know the sort of the values, but it's mostly protein. So products with protein, I'll just give you a few examples so that you can see what I'm talking about. But they will have protein in them and lots of other things. And that's, when I'm talking about products with protein, that's what I'm talking about. They have lots of other things, but they also have protein in them. One of my favorite deep conditioners, the one by Shea Moisture, the intensive hydration, that has hydrolyzed rice protein. So that towel just got protein in it, and that's to help strengthen your hair and help with the moisture retention, which we talked about a minute ago. So when you're looking for products with protein, you're looking for products which, among other things, have things such as hydrolyzed silk amino acids, or hydrolyzed silk protein, hydrolyzed wheat protein, hydrolyzed rice protein, hydrolyzed egg, etc., etc. You catch my drift. And why it'll be hydrolyzed, all it means is that it's been broken down into the tiniest particles or the molecules in order for your hair to be able to absorb the protein, so that the protein molecules can enter the hair shaft and strengthen the hair from within. So that's what it does. And also for the protein molecules to enter the hair follicles and nourish the hair follicles. So that's why they need to be hydrolyzed. So you need to look for products which have those ingredients. Obviously, the more of those are on the list, the more protein you'll have. So you need to be a bit cautious about that. When it comes to pure or purely protein treatments, these will have things such as keratin, or it's mostly keratin. And I find products which have keratin in them, I would consider those to be protein treatments. The reason being, keratin is the strongest form of protein, and therefore having that, even with a few other things in it, even moisturizing things in it or conditioning things in the product, as long as it's got keratin, it's going to be super strengthening. So I would consider that at least in the category of protein treatments. But you've got things like, AFG. The main I suppose the words that are used when describing protein treatments, they would use terms such as constructor or reconstructing, repair, strengthening, rebuilding. So when you see those words, those are usually used, to describe products which are going to be protein treatments. So they're not the same as other types of bond repairs, things like Olaplex. I mean, those are another level, Olaplex, and I think Curlsmith does one, bond products, etc. So it's not the same. But if we're talking about DIYs, then products which include things like fenugreek, which have aloe vera, avocado, those things, or even eggs, yogurt, those things will add some protein to your hair. Now, fenugreek is probably one of my favorite ingredients. I've talked about it a lot, and I use it on a regular basis because of the benefits. So you don't always have to just go and buy protein treatments. I actually find that the more I use Ayurvedic DIYs, the less I need to use proper, protein treatments. And the more I use just products with protein, whether they're DIYs or they are store-bought, again, I don't need to do protein treatments as often. But now and again, I think you can tell that your hair needs it. And if your hair needs a protein treatment, then go for a protein treatment. Some people would actually do protein treatments on a regular basis and maybe schedule it every 3 months, every 6 months, or some people, I think, even once a year, just to make sure that the hair stays healthy, stays on track. But if you're using products which have protein in them, whether they're DIY or store-bought, then you, as I say, you're less likely to need to do protein treatments as often. So in terms of how often, I'll just speak a little bit about that because, that can be a bit of a confusing thing, and I think sometimes it can get a little bit contentious unnecessarily. So when we talk about hair porosity, we've got low porosity, high porosity, and medium porosity, sometimes referred to as normal porosity. So it's really just referring to how porous your hair is. Now, you could have hair that is mostly low porosity or mostly high porosity, and therefore you'd refer to your hair as being low porosity. But I guess if we really think about it, everybody has some high porosity, to some extent, unless you keep your hair really short. And the reason is because, as your hair gets longer, there's going to be wear and tear through washing, brushing, combing, stretching or straightening, styling, all sorts of things. And that wear and tear is going to cause those little holes to be created. You're going to have some split ends at some parts. You might have split shafts, etc. And all those things just make your hair more porous. And therefore, I think we all have a little bit of high porosity somewhere, and others are just mainly high porosity. So that in itself is another reason why I believe that everybody needs protein, because it's going to help to strengthen your hair and prevent those things like split ends, etc. Now, let's say your hair is mostly low porosity. You've been taking care of your hair. It's mostly low porosity because you haven't got a lot of wear and tear, and your hair is naturally low porosity. Then, because that has quite a lot of keratin compared to high porosity hair, low porosity hair will not need protein or protein treatments as often as high porosity hair. So this is when you can use products with protein maybe once every 2 weeks or once every month, once every 3 months if you want, or you can do protein treatments like once every 3 months, 6 months, once a year, whatever you feel comfortable with, and how obviously it depends on how your hair responds to these products. And if you have high porosity hair, then you're generally going to need products with protein a lot more often, and even protein treatments, you're going to need them a lot more often. People with medium porosity or normal porosity, they have it a bit easier than those on the other end of the spectrum, on either end of the spectrum. So yeah, it's less tricky for them. As I said, I generally use something with a bit of protein every 2 weeks, and then maybe do something with a lot more protein, like a protein treatment. Rarely. Rarely. I've not needed to do more. I don't know, things might change as my hair gets longer, because that's the thing we have to think about. Things change as your hair gets longer. Then I might need to do protein treatments a lot more often. You have to keep that in mind, and be ready to embrace change if your hair needs that change. So I'll also touch on protein overload, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. That'll be for another video because it's quite a long topic. But I just wanted to mention protein overload because I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are so scared of using protein in their hair care routine, because either they've had experienced protein overload or they've heard about protein overload and all the disasters associated with that, and think, oh my gosh, I'm never going to use protein on my hair. One, if you use store-bought products, chances are you already using protein, because many products have protein in them. But also, it's about balance. It's not about doing too much, because if you have too much protein, you get protein overload. If you have too much moisture, you get moisture overload. So I know people talk about protein sensitivity and things like that. I'm not entirely sure that actually is a thing. And I know, I'm probably getting into tricky waters here, quite a bit of controversy, and so don't. There's no need to for anybody to come and attack anybody here. But the reason why it seems protein sensitive, I think sometimes it scares people. I think generally, yes, the people whose hair doesn't need a lot of protein, and that's fine. But to then call these people protein sensitive, psychologically, it makes them scared to use protein in their hair care routines, and I don't think that's right. I think that's actually unfair. So I think it's about saying, does your hair need a little bit of protein or a lot more protein? End of the sensitivity or whatever, then because it means that some other people's hair isn't sensitive. But if you go overboard, you're going to have protein overload. And as long as you use things in balance, make sure you use protein, but also make sure that you keep your hair moisturized, and particularly if you've done a protein treatment, make sure you follow it up with a moisturizing deep conditioning treatment, then your hair is going to be fine. But I don't know, maybe it really exists, and maybe I'm just getting it wrong, and if I am, I stand corrected. Let me know in the comment section. Respectfully, of course, we should always be respectful to each other. Let me know what you think. But anyway, yes, I wanted to touch on that. So if you have experienced protein overload, it could be one, you did it or you did it soon after you used the product with protein, or you left it in for too long, or you used too much, etc. Quite often what people don't realize is sometimes even shampoos have protein in them. So they use a shampoo with protein, use a rinse out conditioner with protein, use a a deep conditioner with protein, and then a leave-in conditioner with protein without actually realizing it. And then yes, that can add to, or contribute to protein overload. So as long as you're mindful of, what ingredients are in your different products at each step of your wash day, then you're going to be fine. So, for example, if I'm going to use a leave-in conditioner that has quite a bit of protein in it, I don't use protein at any other stage of my wash day. But if I'm going with a deep moisturizing conditioning treatment after my, towards the end of my wash day, I start with my fenugreek, which has protein, and sometimes I mix it up with aloe vera, which has protein as well. So, it's just being mindful of what you're doing at each step and not just going and doing things blindly because, oh, somebody say this shampoo is great, and then, oh, somebody say this conditioner is great. I said, look at the ingredients, be mindful of what you're doing, and listen to your hair, and not do overboard, not do too much. So yeah, that's it for this video. I know it's been quite a long one, but I thought it was really important to bring out all the, the important information and just have this conversation about protein, so that we're doing what's great for our hair. Excuse me, I'm just shuffling a bit because I'm actually sitting on the floor, and parts of me are starting to complain. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found that useful. And, sometimes if you need to just re-watch the video just to get some of the information and take notes and make points for your hair journals and things like that, then by all means you can do that. But that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. And if you did, do give it a thumbs up. Or even if you just enjoyed watching me, hearing my voice, give it a thumbs up. That will make my day. I will have another video for you real soon, but before I go, I do want to thank my subscribers, my wonderful subscribers, because without your love and support, this channel would not be going anywhere. So thanks to you, this channel keeps growing and growing and growing, and we are now galloping towards the 10,000 goal, 10,000 subscriber goal, which is when we will have a nice little giveaway. So if you've not yet subscribed, please subscribe and get your friends and family, colleagues, anybody anybody who's interested in hair care, let them know about this channel, get them to subscribe so we can reach our goal soon. So I will see you real soon, my lovelies. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and God bless. Bye for now.